Harley Quinn Annual 2021.
And it is a relatively essential issue in terms of just the ongoing plot. It's very much, you probably should read this in between issues 6 and 7. Obviously, 7's not out yet, so I'm just making an assumption here. But it feels like the next step as opposed to just a random issue. So if you are reading this book and you've skipped the annual for whatever reason, you probably want to go back and grab that. Because I know, some people do just skip the annuals. They see annual and they go, right, okay, easy skip book. But no, you probably need to spend your money on this one. Obviously, Stephanie Phillips writing. David LaFente, Marco Fela, and John Samavira on art, which already tells you my feelings, perhaps, that I have 3 artists on a 40-page book, which is not ideal.
But are they broken up into different chapters?
Not entirely. At first, I thought it was going to be because there's like a framing device.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it gets to a point where it just kind of cuts between the other two, and it's very jarring. And there's at least one of the artists I like considerably less than the other two that I do not like very much. Which is a real shame because the other, like, 2 of them, yeah, they're not, maybe not like necessarily my personal favorite, but they're like, it's solid, really clean work, and then strong lines. Obviously very cartoony because this is the Harley Quinn book, and that's the aesthetic of what it's going for, and that's fine. And then you have a couple that are like one artist that's just really, really heavy on the lines, and one that's like really almost anime in comparison, and they don't really mesh well together, the 3 artists. But there is one that I dislike more than the others, but I don't know which one it is because it doesn't break it up by telling me. Sometimes it'll tell you this artist did these pages. It doesn't do that. It just has the 3 names, and I don't know the 3 artists well enough to know which is which. But the issue is basically you've got Kevin, who's again for Peter and Matt who don't pay any attention to this book. Kevin is the ex-Joker gang member that Harley has befriended over the course of the book. So you got him and Solomon Grundy coming into Mr. Freeze and trying to attack him. And, well, Solomon Grundy's trying to attack him. Kevin's trying to not get killed.
Well, I mean, I think Kevin McAllister would do well against Solomon Grundy.
That's fine. You picture that all you want whenever I say Kevin. But yeah, Freeze basically, he freezes Kevin everywhere but the face so he can talk. It's like, what are you doing here? Oh, yeah. Keepsake, which was the random villain that showed up in the last couple of issues that was working with Hugo Strange. He's kidnapped Harley. And they're like, oh, we were told by Two-Face that you could help us. And it's like, all right, well, what happened? So it's, the story, flashback, so to speak. Well, here's what happens. And we get who Keepsake is. He's basically a semi-terrible henchman who has worked for a lot of the Gotham villains, it seems. He has a thing against Harley because he once worked for Joker, but Harley fired him. And then we learn out he's been fired by like all of them. So when he kidnaps them, he shows up and they're just doing a little bit of skateboarding for Kevin, rollerblading for Harley, a little ramp. And he shows up and he's got one of Penguin's umbrellas, but painted it orange, and he's got one of Firefly's flamethrowers, but painted it orange. It's his thing, it seems. And he knocks them out with like a Joker toxin and kidnaps Harley. So when Kevin wakes up, he's like, well, where do we go? He's like, well, he had Penguin's umbrella, so we'll go and see Penguin, see what he knows. And Penguin's like, oh, that guy, yeah, I fired him because he kept stealing stuff. Like, which is basically the running gag with all of them, that he just kept stealing all their stuff, so they kept firing him. And they keep saying he should have been called kleptomaniac, or there was another like joke name that all of them were like really bad villain names, like even by villain name standards. They weren't great.
Kleptomania is running wild.
Exactly, and the jokes, it's the sort of thing where it feels like it's supposed to get funnier when they keep doing it over and over, but it never got there for me, so I didn't really work that well. But they go to Penguin. Penguin's like, nah, go see Two-Face or someone. No, he sends them to Cheshire. And Cheshire's like, no, he tried to steal my sword. So he went. Cheshire, I think, sends them to Two-Face. Two-Face is like, no, go see Freeze, which brings you full circle. Because and Freeze can find him because he stole one of Freeze's old cold guns, but Freeze is smarter than every other villain and has GPS tech in his equipment, so he knows where it is. And Keepsake, he has recreated Ace Labs. Like obviously they destroyed it, but he's somehow got a building that decked out to look at it. He's got vats of toxin, acid, whatever it was, just there. And Harley hanging there and like, oh, we're recreating this, and we're doing this whole thing. And Kevin and Solomon Grundy are on their way to save her, but she saves herself as she does. But breaks out of her chains, does the fight, and does the thing where they fall over into the vats of acid, and then Solomon Grundy has to go and rescue her from the vats. And turns out it wasn't acid after all; it was just water that he dyed green because obviously he didn't have a vats of acid that he could just fill up at short notice.
They would know if it was acid or if it was boiling. I'm just saying.
They would, yes. There was no "it's boiling acid" as she fell in. Let me tell you that. But they leave and they're like, all right, that's cool. They had to make an agreement with Freeze, Kevin and Solomon Grundy, that is, to get the information for Harley, and it turns out that they needed him to go and be clowns for like someone's birthday. It was a weird thing where I'm like, yeah, they had to be the clown at his niece's birthday party. And it's just strange, but yeah, it's more just Keepsake's backstory as to why he's the villain here, and I feel like it's made him less of a threat than more, because all it's done is kind of feel like he's a bit of a joke, right? He's, even by this book standards, he's not really much of a threat, but the final page is him coming up going, Harley has no idea. She thinks my gimmick's just stolen weaponry. As he's standing there over the yellow umbrella, a yellow Bane mask, one of what I assume is Zaz's knives. And then you just go, I love being underestimated. And then to be continued in Harley Quinn 7. I don't think the issue did a very good job of selling any sort of threat, even with this ending.
Keepsakes just sounds like a nerd.
Yeah. He called himself Keepsakes because he took keepsakes from all the villains that he's worked for, and it's not good. It's really not. I say the art it's not as terrible as Rosmo for a start. Like, give that the book.
Oh, high praise.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm on the record many times for not enjoying multiple artists on one book.
Yeah.
Even for an annual, especially when they don't blend well or there's no narrative reason for it. I find that really rough. And then you have particular pages, or one artist in particular, I assume, that where there are just certain pages that stick out as being, to me, pretty ugly, more so than the rest. And yeah, it's not the longest read for an annual of this book. Like, don't get me wrong, I've read things that took a lot longer, but it was very uninspired. I felt kind of going through the motions. The art was all over the place. It's probably like a 4. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Zaz has pizzazz.
Because back when Phillips was doing the Future State issues,
Mm-hmm.
people were really excited, going, "Oh, this is going to be this great Harley Quinn run," and there's so much promise. And I thought maybe it's just Rosman I won't like, but then I get these issues. The last issue without Rosman, I'm still not enjoying it, not really, which is a shame.
Psych.